All right, it is showtime. It is Sunday, and it's time for another Sunday Night Live. So I'm going to welcome everybody in. Come on in. Please leave a nice comment. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We have some great information tonight to share with you. So it might make you mad, could get you upset, but what I'm hoping is that the information that I'm going to share with you tonight will force you or inspire you to take action to help this cause that we're going to talk about. So, a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you about Food Babe, and she started a movement. She's actually been doing this for several years now, where she's advocating and going to Washington and talking to the FDA and the food companies and really helping to move the needle. Well, I mean, she's doing a lot and the needle is kind of flickering, but there's a lot of pushback from the big food companies. And what she's doing is she's advocating to remove all the toxic chemicals from our food system. So about maybe it was about 3 weeks ago or so, and I had shared this with you on another Sunday Night Live. She and a group of other just incredible, highly driven, very smart people were in Washington to have this conversation in front of a panel. It was a roundtable discussion that they had in an effort to get specifically this time Kellogg's to start removing toxic chemicals from their food, from their cereals. Now, I'll preface this also by saying that I just, I don't think I've bought cereal in 20 years. We don't eat cereal. We're not a cereal family. And knowing how damaging the toxic ingredients are in these cereals, which I'm going to share with you what is happening, it's just we just don't buy it. They're so high in sugar. Even the ones that you don't think have a lot of sugar in them, they still have sugar in them. So, things like like Chex cereals, those actually still have added sugars, even though they may not be as sweet as like Fruit Loops. So I just think nobody needs cereal. Like, we don't need it in our diet. There's nothing nutritional about it. However, there are still some people who are going to buy this for their kids, which also is so cringy to me. However, I get it. Sometimes your kids, like, it might be the only thing they eat, but you have to start to introduce other foods to them that are healthier, that are going to help them grow, that are going to help them think better, that are just going to help them learn better habits and help them be healthier adults. We have a chronic health epidemic in the United States right now. 50% of all kids have some kind of chronic disease. And, that's something along the lines of an autoimmune issue, ADD, ADHD. There's juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, which has just skyrocketed. We have childhood cancers are just at an astronomical level. We're supposed to have this war on cancer, and we've done nothing but just throw more drugs at it. And then we're putting more toxic chemicals in our food and our food supply, which is just driving the problem even further into profits for the pharmaceutical industry, frankly. So when we talk about these cereals, many years ago, this was actually, I think, before the internet, and there was a movement, a push to force the FDA to make sure that they were not allowed to promote their cereals to kids if they had a certain amount of sugar. It was a certain number of grams of sugar. I don't specifically remember what it was. It was probably 20 years ago now. So the FDA said you can't advertise to kids if your cereal has more than, we'll just say 25 grams for argument's sake. I'm sure we could look it up, but anyway, so they said, you cannot advertise to kids. So the cereal companies, instead of reformulating everything, what they did was they changed their nutrition label. They reduced the serving size on the label so it would bring down the grams of sugar. So they had to change nothing but the printing on their box. I mean, that is it's so deceptive. It's, you know, it's really criminal what they did. So instead of saying, "Oh yeah, we don't want to have an unhealthy society, we'll go ahead and lower our sugar content," they just decreased the serving size. And who in the heck eats just the serving size of cereal to begin with? Then they reduced it, which means that we're eating even more of it. So it's pretty ridiculous. So Kellogg's was on Food Babe's radar. And there are, let me pull up some articles here. So there are, I'm going to drop the petition, first of all, into the comments. So you can go to the comments and grab the petition. And this petition is to get Kellogg's to remove their artificial dyes and BHT from their cereals. And we'll talk about what BHT is here in a minute. It's nasty, nasty stuff. So there you go. So go ahead and go and sign that. There's over, I think it's 400 and let's see how many, 446,280 signatures so far to date. And this movement is to get them to remove these chemicals from their cereals, because there are other countries where these chemicals are banned. They are not allowed in any of the food system. But, we allow artificial colors, we allow artificial flavors. Artificial colors are, they're just chemicals derived in a lab. It's made from petroleum products. And if they are used in Europe, they require a warning label. Can you imagine that? Having a warning label on your food. And BHT, we're going to go deeper into BHT, but just on the surface, it's linked to cancer in many, many animal studies. It's an endocrine disruptor. So what that means is that it interferes with hormones. So it's going to interfere with your kids' hormones. It's going to interfere with your hormones if you eat it. And when you mess with hormones, you mess with life. So this is a lot of when we think about kids and learning issues and sleep issues and anxiety, how you could throw a stone and find a kid who has anxiety or depression. These kids are just, their brains are on fire. If you think of the brains of a kid who has ADD, ADHD, autism, anything brain related, there's so much inflammation that it's like their brain is on fire. There's too much inflammatory, negative chemical responses happening in the brain. It's like squeezing the brain because there's too much, let's just call it fluid. It's inflammation in the form of fluid up in the brain, and it's squeezing everything. And if you think of it, it's like, it's almost like static. Can you imagine, like, if you just had static and pressure in your brain? And of course, so many of the kids that I work with have had, they have headaches. They can't sleep well. The rates of suicide in teenagers has also skyrocketed. So we have to pay attention to the chemicals that are being put in the food system to protect our kids and to help them become healthy adults. And not just throw a pill or a potion at it, but really looking at choices and lifestyle habits that are going to optimize their body's ability to function. As a society, we have become so accustomed to a pill for an ill. And that is just not how we're going to survive as a species. There are, we're already seeing fertility rates have dropped significantly. Male sperm counts have gone down 50% over the last 50 years. Female fertility has dropped significantly. Fertility rates are dropping at about 1 to 2% per year. It's, again, we are in an epidemic of losing our own population, our ability to populate. So this is something we've got to pay attention to. So I'm going to tell you what happened here when Vani showed up at Kellogg's. And it's pretty interesting. So let me see. I've been doing this a really long time. And okay, we want to share screen. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to play this. Let me know if you can hear this. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. Let me hold on. I haven't hit the start button yet. There we go. There and here and there. Okay.
We're starting a mandatory boycott from this moment forward. Do not Kellogg. Deliver over 400,000 of the food.
Hang on, you guys, because I see that is buffering. Hold on. Okay. Let's try. Okay, this is going to skip for a second. I'm just going to jump to a different. So give me 1 second. Okay. All right. Let's try this again. I'm going to start it over so you can see. Okay.
Kellogg's to deliver over 400,000 voices and demand they meet with us. This will be the biggest petition ever collected, taking on the food industry. It's time for Kellogg's to do the right thing for American families. We deserve the same safe.
Look at all those people. Isn't that amazing?
Hi, I'm with corporate security. I'm not a spokesperson. I'm here to help facilitate the delivery of your petitions. The building is card access only, so we cannot let anybody in today. I will take these. I will take you where they need to go, and leadership will review them. We don't have anybody from leadership available today to speak to you all.
We have 400,000 voices here on a petition. We've been calling, we've been emailing, we've been sending letters to your having a discussion. We told right here that's being denied the building to have a meeting.
I appreciate your efforts. However, I will escalate this to leadership, and they will respond in kind.
So Kellogg's
Right there looking.
come out! Stop hiding from us!
All right, we'll stop that. So you get it. Unfortunately, when I tried it, my bandwidth is not strong enough to stream another video while I have this one going, but you get the idea. I will drop that also. Let me drop that link into the comments. So what happened was she showed up with, you saw those hundreds or thousands of people. I don't really know how many people actually showed up, and get this link here. And Kellogg's knew that they were coming, and Kellogg's did not allow them in the building, nor did they have anyone available to speak with them. I think that is so shameful, because back in, I saw another article, and I opened it. Oh, here it is. Here we go. Let's see if I can pull this one up, because yeah, you'll love this one. Let's go here. Throw it there. And let's see if I can just get to this page. Share screen. Yeah, here it is. Okay, let's see if I can make this happen here. All right. So, all right, can you guys see that okay? So if we go to right here. All right. So if we start at the top, the big deal is that, you can see that, I mean, it's in every single one of their products. We look at artificial colors. They're derived from petroleum. They can cause hyperactivity in children, disrupt the immune system, and requires a warning label in Europe. Artificial flavors, also synthetic, also made from crude oil and coal tar. Like, ew. And it's much cheaper than using real food. And with these flavors, you have to understand that to get a flavor, like let's say they get the lime flavor in the Fruit Loops, it could take over 100 different chemicals put together to get the proper lime taste. It's not just like lime, squeeze it out of a tube. It doesn't work that way. They bring together all of these flavors. Now, there's a book called, which I'll do a whole show on this one at some point, but it's called The Dorito Effect by Mark Schatzker. And in that book, he talks about with the flavorings that when Doritos does a taste test, or so when they did their taste test originally for their original Doritos, they put together, they had a panel of people. It's blind taste testing. And so people would taste it, and then they would rank what they liked and what they didn't like. And what they found was that the flavors that people liked the most, they then backed it down just a little bit. So, that whole, I think it's Lay's potato chips, you can't eat just one. So they back down the flavoring just a little bit. And so what that does is you get the flavor that you're looking for, but not quite. And so you keep reaching back for more because you think the next one's going to get, this is where the addiction of food comes from. So it tricks your brain. Your brain's like, oh, that tastes really good. Oh, but we need a little bit more. And so it forces you to keep going back and going back. And that's where the addiction comes from. So they don't actually put the flavor that gets voted the best. They back it down so that they can then get you to eat more. So I know, is that just amazing? So amazing. So that's on the artificial flavors. BHT. Now, I'm going to tell you all about my mom. You guys have heard me talk about my mom over the years. And she, she knew about BHT way back in the 70s, BHA and BHT. And so she was like, no, we're not buying anything that has BHA or BHT in it. And these are preservatives. Now, when you look at here, it says it's linked to cancer in some animals. It's an endocrine disruptor. What do endocrine disruptors do? They disrupt your hormones. They affect how kids grow. They affect how kids function. They affect how they think. And then even just in adults as well. But, most people are feeding this stuff to their kids and thinking it's okay. And it's just not okay. So, so she says, I'm not asking Kellogg's to start at square one to reformulate these cereals without these ingredients because it's already been done. And what she means by that is right here. All Kellogg's cereals are free from artificial colors and BHT in Europe and Australia. Kellogg's has specifically sold Fruit Loops and Unicorn cereals in other countries without colors or artificial colors or BHT. So they already have the formula. They already did this. So she's advocating for safer cereals here in the US. And so when you look at this, I may have shown this a few weeks ago as well, just on the Fruit Loops. I mean, just look at the length of the ingredients on both. And then here they have red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, and this red 40, I have to go back. I know one of the reds was pulled from the market after many, many years of being on the generally recognized as safe list because it has been shown to cause cancer. So when we look over here at the Australian version, excuse me, you can see that its colors, the natural colors, come from paprika extract. Carmine. Now, carmine's kind of gross. Carmine is extracted from, it's part of like the cockroach family, and it grows on like cacti. And so it comes from a bug. So I think that's disgusting. I won't eat anything that has carmine in it, but at least I guess it's a natural source. Curcumin has kind of like a natural orange yellow. So, so you can see that the colors are definitely more natural. And then look at the natural flavors: orange, lemon, and lime. That's it. That's it. So, and over here, so it just says natural flavors. They don't have to tell you what it is. And then they put the artificial colors in here. So natural flavors is actually artificial when it doesn't list it out, where here they've listed out what their natural flavors. It actually is natural. So, so we can be really deceived on that as well. Same thing here. You can see here, they're putting all of these food dyes in here, plus the BHT for freshness. But over on this UK version, they're using vegetable powders, freeze-dried vegetable powders for, I don't know if that's color or flavor, but either way, blueberry, apple, beetroot juice. And then up here as well, vegetable concentrates, fruit and vegetable concentrates, apple, blueberry, carrot, and cherry. So very, very different from one country to the next. Now, here's a bit of a shocker. So, hey, Happy Mac, welcome in. So on this shocker here, so you can see here in 2015 that Kellogg's had announced their plans to remove artificial colors and flavors by 2018. And then, sorry, I got a hole in my lip. And then in January 2019, they introduced Peeps cereal with artificial flavors and colors. What? And then in 2019, also in August of that year, they introduced Baby Shark cereal that also has artificial colors and flavors. And then here's the end of 2018. They're still selling Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks with artificial colors. February 2019, this Catacorn cereal, artificial colors. 2020, Minecraft cereal was released with artificial flavors and colors. And then in 2023, this Icy cereal was released with artificial flavors and colors. So, so they're just, they're coming up with more and more ways to just adulterate the palate. I mean, just the thought of eating this makes me want to hurl. It's absolutely disgusting. Just put all this junk and as parents, we have a responsibility to look at this and say, that is not healthy for my children. And I would about guarantee that if you're feeding your kids this, or if you know someone whose kids eat like this, that the child probably also has some health problems. And we have the ability to remove this from their diets and allow them, teach them healthier habits. And then, I know we'll have parents who will say, well, that's all my kid will eat. Well, you're the one that introduced him to begin with. So now it's time to figure out what to do. Your kid's not going to starve. So you need to teach them to make better choices. And there are, we don't want the fight. Like, we want the easy way out, right? We don't want the fight. Kids are going to fight with you anyway about wanting snacks, and, they're not going to want to eat their dinner. They're going to want dessert. I had a friend of mine, I remember years ago, told me that her son, he just wouldn't eat. He just would never eat. And he was skinny, which is malabsorption, for sure. That's a gut issue. He was, he wasn't getting nourishment. He wasn't absorbing his nutrients. He wasn't getting nutrients, and then he wasn't absorbing them properly. So she'd tell me that, he wouldn't, he just wouldn't eat dinner, and she couldn't get him to eat healthy things. And I remember, just realizing every time I was over there and we would get together, that he would drink, I don't even know how many, he probably had 6 juice boxes over a period of, a couple of hours. He basically just drank juice boxes the whole time. And I watched him, and these were fresh juice boxes. I would watch him go into the cupboard and get another one and get another one and get another one, and snacks and chips and, just all kind. He just snacked. And then sure enough, we sat down to have dinner, and he didn't want to eat. He was full. So he had filled his body with sugar and garbage. And then she was like, see what I mean? I don't know why he won't eat. And I had actually said, well, I watched him drink about 6 juice boxes. And she was like, oh, that's probably just because today's a special occasion or something like that. So we have this tendency to put blinders on and make excuses for the choices that we're allowing our kids to make. You have to just have a firm hand and a firm foot, put your foot down, and offer your child other options. Put a lock on the pantry or something. They can't snack, and again, they're not going to starve. They'll be just fine. Give them a reason to have an appetite and to want to eat. So let's see if there's anything else on that. I think this was it. So this is just part of the letter that is on the petition. So let me stop sharing that. Okay. And then, so I don't really know what is to come of that. So I'll have to keep you posted. So Kellogg's turned their backs on a really important part of our world today, which is our children's health. And I know Food Babe and the Food Babe Army, they're just going to keep forging ahead. I know I will keep forging ahead and having these conversations and making sure that people understand that there is a better way. And 50% of our kids having some kind of chronic issue, eczema, gut issues, again, malabsorption. I see these kids and they're just skinny, skin and bones. That is a gut issue, and it's affecting their brains. It is affecting how they function in the day-to-day world. It's affecting how they grow, how they sleep. Kids need to get sleep too. And they may seem like they're going to bed and sleeping, but again, it's just like the rest of us, that we've got to make sure we're getting the proper cycles of sleep, that we are taking care of our bodies in a way so that our bodies can sleep and rest and heal and recover. So, hey, Kenny, yes, you walked into Fruit Loops. I'm demonizing Fruit Loops. So hopefully you don't have any in your cabinet. So I wanted to then talk about, which is why it's like this full circle moment for me. So here we have Food Babe, and she's out there advocating to get all of this garbage out of our foods. So back in the 70s, and some of you may have heard me tell this story, that my brother, and I did my TED talk on this too, so I'll drop this into the comments. Let's see. Let me pull this up here. So my brother he would just bounce off the walls. He was ridiculous. And pull this up. There we go. So you guys can see this. And he drove us all nuts. This is what I did my TED Talk on. And here we go. Okay. There's my TED Talk there. And so my mom took him to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said that he was hyperactive and that he needed medication. I'm actually kind of shocked that back in that day that they, prescribed hyperactivity medication. They just called it hyperactive. There's no, today we have a spectrum of things, and it's all the same, you guys. It's gut health, it's brain health, it's diet, it's movement, it's sleep. It doesn't change. So my mom gave him 1 dose of Ritalin one day, said it turned him into a zombie. And she was like, I can't do this to my kid. Like, there has to be a better way. So she decided to get him into hockey. Now, he was already, we were all a pretty active family, pretty active kids, but she thought that maybe getting him into hockey where he would have to go and skate and, it was intense and it was regular, intense activity, a couple hours of a skate 2-3 times a week. And my mom was a single mom. So she drove him everywhere to make sure that he got to practices and he got to his games. And it was quite a leap, but she did it. So, and then she discovered the Feingold diet. And I don't know why I remember that that's what it was called, but I remember that that's what it was called. And get rid of my light here because I think it's kind of like blinding me. Okay. So she finds the Feingold diet, and Dr. Feingold had, and again, like, think of this. This is back in the 70s, right? So how did she find it? I wish she were alive for me to ask, because there was no internet. If her doctor was prescribing Ritalin, I don't think her doctor would have given her this. I have no idea. And I wish I knew. It's just sort of a missing link. But anyway, so she found Dr. Feingold. I'm going to show you guys this in a second. And in Dr. Feingold's plan, let me see if this brings us here. Okay, here, let me share here again. Okay. Hey, Wild, how are you? Nice to see you. Yeah, Fruit Loops are sugary enough for sure. And then, I see. You said, let's see, what'd you say here? Red food dye is synthetic, toxic, or made of bugs because it's hard, safe dye. Use beets instead, but it can change to purple depending on the acidity. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I read something that was made with, had carmine in it for the coloring, which carmine is a bug from the cockroach family. So I'm like, ugh, that's disgusting. And Kenny says there's Fruit Loops with marshmallows that come in a purple box. Okay, Kenny, if you were here, I'd smack you right about now. Listen, I used to love Crunch Berries. Like, Crunch Berries were my jam. And then like what were the peanut butter puffs? I loved those too. But I would never eat them today because I want to remember how good I thought they were. Like, if I had that today, besides knowing that I'm putting garbage in my body, it would ruin how good I thought it was. It's kind of like, also, I used to love Big Macs, and I would never eat one today because I want the memory of how good I thought they were. So do you guys get that? Yes, Fruit Loops are so sugary. Wild says, I don't mind mom getting me shreddies because brown sugar tasted good too. You got to laugh and change how we eat. Yeah. Shredded wheat, actually, we ate, that was one of the, like, we were like, my mom took all the sugar cereals. She found Feingold, she took away all the sugar cereals. I'm going to show you what his diet is about in a second. No Pop-Tarts, like no more white bread. So she bought the shredded wheat, like just legit straight shredded wheat, the big block that you had to crumble yourself, that you always had too many shreds. And so as soon as you put milk on it, it was like soggy as hell. But that was our cereal. She had that. And what else did she buy? I think like grape nuts, maybe. Yeah, we're like, I'm like 7, 8 years old and I'm eating grape nuts. But yeah, she wouldn't buy garbage cereal anymore. So I know. I just want to remember that Crunch Berries were good. I wouldn't touch those with a 10-foot pole. Wild says, I tried Skittles a few months ago after going without sugar for over a year, and yuck. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Yeah, there you go. And that's artificial sweeteners, flavors, colors, chemicals. Like there's all kinds of stuff. Hey, Ken, how are you? Nice to see you, my friend. Totally agree about the Big Mac, but fast food has been off the menu for over a year. Good for you. And with all the traveling you do, that's really great that you're able to accomplish that. Yes, past the brown sugar. I'd be happy if no sugar. I would not eat it. I would just load it up with blueberries is how I used to eat it, with blueberries and bananas, because my mom wouldn't allow us to put sugar on the cereal either. Because again, that defeats the purpose. If you're buying sugar or cereal with no sugar, you can't put sugar on the cereal. Weetabix. Yeah. Bales of hay, literally like you felt like a horse trying to chew all the food. I actually did like the grape nuts, but there was only you could only have a small bowl because it would hurt my jaw after a while. Gosh. Bugs in Skittles. Interesting. Is that from the carmine, from the color? Not sure about that. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you what Dr. Feingold's diet is all about. And let's see if I can find the link. Okay, hold on. Let me go. Let's see. It is this one. Present. Share screen. Oh, there it is. Let's see. I think this is it. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So my mom goes and she finds the Feingold diet. Okay. And so this is just feingold.org, which is so awesome to me that this is still around. You just go, wow, that's just so cool that she found this back in the 70s. It's still tried and true. And yet it's still like, we still haven't taken the crap out of our food. I mean, this has been something that's been around forever. And I don't remember, I'll have to look on the website and see when he developed this, but let me see, Dr. Feingold's work. Oh, here we go. 18. Can you see that? There we go. Okay. So, okay, he lived from 1899 to 1982. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Was trained as a pediatrician and taught pediatrics at Northwestern University School of Medicine. He transitioned to treating allergy and studied under the Australian Dr. Clemens von Perket, who coined the term allergy. Interesting. Dr. Feingold created a state-of-the-art allergy clinic in Los Angeles and developed similar clinics for the Kaiser Permanente system, and was chief of allergy at their facility in San Francisco. He was considered a pioneer in the fields of allergy and immunology. He was the first traditionally trained physician who observed the link between food and behavior. Isn't that crazy? And he recognized that the rise in childhood behavior problems in the United States followed the same trajectory as the rise in the use of synthetic food additives. Now think about this, the rise in childhood behavioral problems, and this was way back many, many years ago, and it has only skyrocketed since. He called his program the KP diet, but the media dubbed it the Feingold diet. Dr. Feingold worked tirelessly to reach as many troubled children as possible and traveled the globe sharing his remarkable information. When grateful families established support groups, he gave his time and energy to us as well. We named our organization the Feingold Association of the U.S. in gratitude to this remarkable man. So now if we go back, what is the Feingold diet? So it's an elimination diet. What an elimination diet is you eliminate certain foods and categories of foods in an effort to try to determine what you are actually allergic to or have a sensitivity to, what might be affecting your health. So this is definitely an elimination diet. And if you see positive results once you've gotten rid of those chemicals, then you simply continue to eat the foods you enjoy that are free of them. There are some schools of thought that say that, okay, you'll eliminate these certain things that we think you're allergic to, do that for a certain amount of time, and then add them back and see if you get a reaction. It's like, no, because usually what happens is people start feeling really good after they eliminate these things, and they don't want to add these things back. But their MDs who don't know any better are like, no, you have to add it back in. Why would you tell somebody to do that and return to misery? That's just not, like, if people know that they feel good not eating a certain thing, let them just go through with that. So the Feingold diet removes, so this is artificial sweeteners, flavors, and colors. And I have said that forever. In all my years of practice, I have been quoting this for my 26, almost 27 years in practice. No artificial sweeteners, flavors, and colors. If you can eliminate that, you will eliminate probably 90% of your hyper-processed foods. Because if you eliminate artificial sweeteners, flavors, and colors, you're probably going to take the foods with it that have these BHA, BHT, and TBHQ, which are preservatives. So we want to avoid that at all cost. Temporarily removed at the start of the diet. So he also had this, this is called salicylates. So certain foods are high in salicylates, and salicylates are aspirin mimickers. Some kids have a sensitivity or an allergy to the salicylates. So foods high in salicylates are things like grapes, apples, and what do kids eat? Grapes and apples all the time. So he had all of that, he suggested to eliminate that too. And then avoiding aspirin and medicine containing aspirin. And of course, way back in the 70s, that's pretty much all we took. I'm trying to think, I don't even know if Tylenol was on the market yet, but if you had a headache, it was bare aspirin. That was all that was in the cabinet. And if you needed anything more than that, you went to the doctor because you were really sick and you had to get an antibiotic or something like that. So anyway, so this is really the foundation of it. No artificial sweeteners, flavors, and colors. And so you have to start to read the labels. Let's see what the food and shopping lists guides say. Oh, this is kind of cool. Okay, so you can buy these shopping lists. You can also email me. I've got shopping lists also that are free that I can provide to you. So if you would like a shopping list, you can go ahead and email me. I'll drop this down drop my email. Oops, there we go. Okay. So let me get out of there. Okay, great. Okay, let me read some of these comments and get caught up. Yeah, grape nuts hurt my jaw. I know, it's crazy. My mom used less sugar than other moms because diabetes on both sides of the family, but there was still sugar in everything. Hey, Laura, welcome in, my friend. Welcome from down under. Appreciate you being here. The red bug dye from the beetles that eat prickly pear plant and collect the red dye in their shell, I think. Yeah, it's called carmine. I think the color is called carmine. And yeah, I was going to say they live on a cactus. Let's see, where does carmine color come from? Carmine is, the cochineal bug. That's it. Carmine is a red or purplish red pigment that comes from the cochineal insect, a tiny bug that lives on cacti in Central and South America. And it's only from the female, not the male. So the female gives off the color. I know, total yuck. They squish them up and get the red dye out. For some reason, you can't get the dye out of fruit. For real. Isn't that crazy? Also, carmine's used a lot in makeup, lipstick, blush, anything that needs a red or a pink tinge, it will be used in that. you can get a nice red dye from very toxic mushrooms. Not recommended. Nah, I think I'll pass on that one. I think red loses its red color when processed as it dries. Maybe, except beet juice gets darker. So, and then certainly when it comes out the other end, you know, you think you're bleeding to death. So between beets and cherries and blueberries, I don't think blueberries lose their color, but you know, it's more expensive, isn't it? I totally don't agree with that, all that extra stuff. And here's the problem though. It is more expensive to have more natural flavorings, but they keep raising the prices on all this other garbage. So it's like they're trying to fool us, you know. Shocker that they would do that. Let's see. I'm pretty sure Tylenol was on the 70s. I think late 70s when someone was poisoned with it. Let's look that up. When was Tylenol invented? 1955. Okay. I don't ever remember having any in the house. However, though, this whole issue of someone being poisoned by it, it is the number one cause of liver failure, I think, in the US, because people just take it without a second thought. When you can buy something over the counter, you are duped into thinking that it's safe. So Tylenol is not safe. It causes many, many injuries. And so people are still getting poisoned from it. Non-alcoholic fatty liver. But of course, we're not going to blame it on the Tylenol because the pharmaceutical industry still needs their money. Navajo Grandma has a video on the bug. I will tag you. Oh, very cool. I've used it for a long time in their blankets. Oh my gosh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I definitely would love to see that. Beet juice can go purple, though pH sensitive. Yeah, we can use them safer. I agree. We should be pushing them for sure. Yeah, they subsidize all of that stuff for sure. Yeah, and if the government subsidizes it, then, you know, why is it so expensive again? So let's see, someone tampered with the Tylenol, poisoning it. Oh, I see. Got it. Okay. Hey, Katie Lilly, welcome in. Oh, this is really, I'm so glad you brought that up, Katie. Thank you so much for this comment. MSG was another one that is on the Feingold diet that my mom also was like, we don't eat anything with MSG. So monosodium glutamate is actually a neurotoxin. So that means it's highly toxic and inflammatory to your nerves. So if you have a kid who's eating Doritos, there's MSG in that flavoring. If you have a kid who's eating even like lunch meat has MSG in it. So you have to buy MSG-free foods. Now, don't be fooled though, because MSG, let's pull this up. MSG, other names for MSG. Okay, so MSG can come in many, many forms. And so this is also making sure you're paying attention, because let's share this. And here we go. All right, so MSG is, you know, again, of course, ramen noodles. That would be like ramen noodles. And then there's, which I used to use this back in the 80s. I had no idea. I didn't know it was MSG, even though my mom taught me to read labels. And if it said monosodium glutamate on the label, I didn't buy it. But for some reason, I used to use Accent food flavor enhancer. You guys remember that? And I don't know why I thought it was something other than what it was. But MSG comes in many, many names. So anything in this list, autolyzed yeast protein, calcium glutamate, carrageenan, that's a common one, hydrolyzed corn, anything hydrolyzed on the list is a MSG derivative. So ingredients listed is hydrolyzed, protein fortified, ultra pasteurized, fermented, enzyme modified. And then of course, monosodium glutamate, monoammonium glutamate. So anything with glutamate. It actually affects how the brain functions. So here's your natural flavors. And it can have MSG in it. So it can have all those chemicals, pectin, sodium caseinate, sodium isolate. So soy sauce has MSG in it. So you want to buy tamari, which is soy, MSG free soy, or we use Bragg's liquid aminos is what we use in our house. Textured protein, vegetable extract, yeast food, bouillon. So any kind of bouillon has MSG in it. So this is something to definitely pay attention to, that because otherwise you're getting a whole lot of chemical in your food. I ate a lot of Doritos in my day. For real, didn't we all? I know. Who didn't love Doritos? MSG bugs me, stomach crampy. Yeah. And a lot of people will get headaches. And MSG well, it's still a demon, I will say, but I should say Chinese restaurants got demonized for using MSG. Do you guys remember that? Like way back when in the 90s, maybe? And it was like, don't eat Chinese food because it has MSG in it. Or if you went into the Chinese restaurant, you would say, you would request no MSG. But that was so stupid because they were still using things like fish sauce and soy sauce, oyster sauce. Other sauces have MSG in them. If they didn't give you MSG in the seasonings, you wouldn't be eating the Chinese. I mean, it wouldn't have the same flavor. And so they just didn't add MSG is how they got around that. So, Jen Johnson Richards, welcome in. Nice to see you in here. Try organic. Where is an organic Dorito? I would love to make them myself. So I actually make kale chips, which I have to go out and pick my kale and get my kale chips on deck. But I make a paste. This will sound gross for a second. So I make a paste. I use raw cashews, raw sunflower seeds, bell peppers, fresh, garlic, smoked paprika, some salt. I have the recipe on my phone somewhere. And I blend it in my food processor and it comes out like a paste, like hummus, but it tastes cheesy. Like it literally tastes like nacho cheese, like what should be on Doritos. And then I take my kale leaves and I massage it all through the kale leaves and I put them in the dehydrator. So I get these wonderful chunks. My mouth is watering. I get these wonderful chunks of kale chips, but they're just these like chunks of kale with all this cheesy, crunchy goodness through it. So yummy. Most dry broth powder. Yeah. Dry broth powders, seasonings in a packet, salad dressings, usually anything in a jar or a packet. So I always recommend to buy your own seasonings, like buy singular seasonings and then mix them yourself. Or if you buy a jar of seasoning that's blended, you have to make sure you look at the label, make sure it doesn't have silicon dioxide in it. Some of these seasonings also, they found, I think it was a glyphosate. I haven't done this report yet, but it'll be coming to you in like almost all of them. And even the organic ones. So really it's so much better if you can grow your own herbs, do what you can. Maybe you buy like whole cinnamon sticks, grind it yourself. Anyway, it's just our whole food system is so polluted. Katie Lilly says, also, if it's under a certain percentage, now they don't have to list it at all. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I mean, they've just been given such a pass. I mean, they don't have to list it. And then also, if it's on the generally recognized as safe list, then it's like they can just use it and be like, yeah, we're fine and say to the FDA, Oh, it's on the generally recognized as safe list, so we're good. And the FDA is like, oh, okay, you just keep going and making that poison, which is then, oh, that's not good either. Hold on, I'm losing light. But that's when they decided to, there we go. That's better. That's when they decided to get rid of the food dye. They finally said, after I think 20 years on the generally recognized as safe, the red food dye, I forgot which number, but do you really like buy into the fact that all the other numbers are safe? No. Jen Johnson Richards says, gives me migraines, tastes like metal, and makes my tongue swell. I remember that. I remember accent. I remember one day just putting it on my tongue, plain from the bottle, and going, why does that taste like metal? Like, it was disgusting. And then I don't think I used it after that. I think I then discovered that you can do a multitude of things with salt, pepper, and garlic. Those are my like 3 main ones. And then I add in like some onion powder if I want. Let's see, I use a lot of smoked paprika, regular paprika, but yeah, just, keep it as simple as possible. Wild says flavoring on chips, crackers makes everything taste good. Yes. In fact, I'm making sourdough crackers. I won't get to them tonight, but and they are so amazing. Like, I don't need to ever buy another cracker ever again. But the sourdough, I'll roll them out. And then I'm going to put, one of my favorites is I just finely shred some Parmesan. I'll go pick some rosemary from the garden, and then I'll sprinkle everything bagel seasoning on top of it. And then I take my rolling pin and I roll it into the dough and then bake it. And it's so good. Like, I don't need to buy any more crackers ever again. The best. So yeah, meat tenderizer has MSG. It's a really popular, it's like, I want to say Morton's, not Morton's Steakhouse, but it's a Montreal steak seasoning. People are like, oh my God, it's so good. I'm like, yeah, because it's all MSG. It's just full of it. So yes, it is. It's outstanding. Wild says some edible amanita mushrooms have something like MSG. That family of mushrooms tastes good, even the toxic ones, because they have that in them too. I hear people end up eating a lot of them. Like, too much, do they get toxic when they eat too much of it? That was a repeat there. Herbs are easy to grow. Most grow in pots. Yes. Yet they want to condemn Amish farmers for selling whole milk and beef. Isn't that the truth, Laura? Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you for that truth bomb. I wish I had my, well, I have little sounds over here, but I don't know how to use them. So I'm not sure if, I don't know if that did anything or not. It might have clapped. It might have done something. I don't know. But yeah, that is the truth. We should be able to buy that stuff wherever we want. And so Bill says, hey, Bill, how are you? Nice to hear from you. How far has Kellogg fallen since the founding of the company by Kellogg back in 1906? The Kellogg Biological Station and Bird Sanctuary, absolutely no connection with the current cereal company. Yeah, and what, didn't he have like a sanitarium or something? Like, wasn't he kind of a wacko dude? I remember reading that history years ago, and I was like, wow, I can't believe like the guy was kind of loony. Buy good quality spices and make your own seasoning. 100%. I agree with that. That's what I tell everybody. Because again, there's so much in our spices. Bird flu scare and fresh cow's milk now has many people freaked out. Sure. Yeah, exactly. Like then I'm like, what are they trying to do? What's the agenda? That's what I ask. What's the agenda with all this fear? Katie says, don't laugh at this one. The best meat tenderizer is baking soda sprinkled on the meat. Let it sit in the fridge for an hour, then rinse it off and cook as usual. I have heard that before. And, well, I mean, it's not sodium chloride, it's sodium bicarbonate. So also I've used baking soda on my chicken. making a whole chicken, and it's a baking soda blend. Might have a little cream of tartar in it. I can't remember. But you rub it on the skin of the chicken, and you put it in the refrigerator. Same thing. Put it in the refrigerator, open overnight, uncovered, and it dries out the skin. So then when you bake your chicken, you get that really crispy skin. So that's another little, yeah. Wild says, I need to find a way to get cow again. I miss my cow and her fresh milk. And I just made another batch of yogurt today. So I really need to find a raw milk source. I think I found one, so I have to get a hold of that person. But I buy this. We have it. It's called Kelowna with a K. I'm not sure where they're out of, but I don't like that it comes in a plastic bottle. However, it's low heat pasteurized, and it makes the best yogurt. So really creamy. And then I bought their heavy cream. And if you notice too, a lot of heavy creams and half and halves have additives in them. It's hard to find one that's just heavy cream. So I took about a half a cup of that and I put it in the yogurt, and it is delightful. So I have a little bowl of that with some frozen blueberries, Bill, that I picked last year at Hartman's that are still frozen. I'm trying to finish those up. That's my dessert. Bill says Kellogg was interested in the health benefits of nuts. You can still see many of the plantings of various nut trees that he had planted. Hard to believe the cereal company has strayed so far. Yeah, isn't that? It's really amazing. They're in the chemical industry now. Some amanitas are toxic no matter what. Some are not toxic, but what I read, they taste so good, people will eat them all. Got it. Do you wild harvest your wild edibles? So I'm assuming that you wild harvest for mushrooms. Mushrooms scare me a little bit. I'm good with finding herbs and things like that. Wild herbs and wild leafy things I'm good with. Let's see. If they didn't know they were eating toxic mushrooms, I read the emergency information on mushroom poisoning and learned about the toxins. They couldn't stop eating them anyway. They tasted so good. Oh, yeah. So I wonder if that's part of that addiction thing, right? Katie Lilly, here's a misnomer: fat-free half and half. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. I remember my cousin said to me one time about drinking her coffee in the morning, and she's like, yeah, I use fat-free half and half. And I'm like, you what? I'm like, you do realize that's not a thing. It's half cream, half milk. There's no what's fat? I don't understand what fat-free half and half is. And my gosh, the fact they are able to fool people into thinking that that's even like drink the fat, man. That's where the magic is. And then don't try to call it fat-free. That's so dumb. Wild says, me too. That's how I learned about the toxic ones first. Kenny says, the Kellogg's were brothers. One of them was the director of the Battle Creek Sanitarium. Yeah, I thought there was a sanitarium. I think they wanted to improve the diet of the patients, which is how they started. Yeah, isn't that crazy? And of course, now they're creating so much sickness in this world. Thanks for coming in, Laura. Have a great evening. Appreciate you jumping in and engaging, and always good to see you. Kenny says, I vaguely remember a bit of that visiting the plant once. Oh, that's cool. You got to visit the plant. I wonder if they even allow tours anymore. I wonder if it stinks. Do you think it stinks? In Iowa, when we go visit family, the Quaker Oats, there's a Quaker Oats plant there. And the whole town, it's in Cedar Rapids. It's like putrid. It's so bizarre to think that this food industry, this food that's supposed to be food that's getting processed, can pump out just nasty, toxic vapors into the air. And then you're like, wait, but what kind of food are that? It's Quaker Oats. What are you doing in there that what you're pumping out is that stinky? Katie Lilly says, most people only read the front of the package and sadly they believe it. Yeah. And there's nothing to read on the front of the package. So it's like window dressing where they look at the front of the package and they're like, oh, and it might be green, and they put a little plant on there and a little sunshine, and they put things on the front that make it look healthy. There's certain images and just colors that they use to make you go, oh, that's got to be healthy. And then God forbid they flip it over. But yeah, if you don't flip that package over, you will be duped every time. And yes, Kenny, it's in Cedar Rapids. Oh, the Quaker Oats plant is in Cedar Rapids. My family lives there. My cousins. Wild says Kellogg started out no sugar, no dye, no flavor, etc., to curb appetite of all sorts. Do I remember that right? I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and read that history. Now you've got me curious about that. But if they had a sanitarium and they were trying to help people be healthy, then that doesn't surprise me that that's how they started off. But where, as Bill said earlier, the fact that, how far have they strayed from that, initial mission and vision. So they belong to a big church. Oh, Seventh Days. Were they Seventh Days? Yeah. Bill says, had an uncle who died by eating Amanita verosa. There you go. The destroying angle. It was a horrific way to die. To go. Oh, that's horrible, Bill. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I'm assuming there's no anecdote to that. Potato processing is that it stinks. So let's just look up what is produced in the Quaker Oats factory in Cedar Rapids. Let's see, what are they making there? They do oats, so oatmeal, Quaker Oats oatmeal, old-fashioned, quick, instant, and steel cut. They do cereal, Captain Crunch, Life, Quaker Oats Squares, Quaker Oat Bran, and Corn Bran. Snacks, Crunch Berry Day Popcorn and Crunch Berry Blast Sundae. When I was in college, we used to get the soft serve vanilla ice cream and layer the crunch berries in between it. God, that was good. Pancake mixes and syrups and instant grits. The Quaker Oats plant is the world's largest cereal plant and is located in the 190-foot building. That's the fourth tallest building in Cedar Rapids. The plant was originally built in 1873 and has been operating for 140 years. Wow, that's amazing. The world's largest cereal plant. So I wonder, that's got to be a story there between Quaker and Kellogg's. And I know there's that series on the History Channel called the Men Who Built America. And then there's like the foods that built America, the cars that built America. There's a whole bunch of them. And I think they did a story on Kellogg's versus, I don't know if it was Quaker or not, but yeah, they did a whole thing on the cereal industry. I have to go back and watch it. It's one of those shows that I put on and I want to pay attention to it, but then I have so many other things to do. I've only been to Iowa City to see Caitlin Clark once. Never been to Iowa before. Not much there. No, there's not much there at all. So I have relatives there. And then the only thing that we get pork tenderloin sandwiches. It's the only place you can get a pork. It's a deep fried flattened pork tenderloin, like battered and fried and then put on this tiny white bun. Like, it's really kind of disgusting. But that's really that's the fare of Cedar Rapids. Kellogg Seventh-day Adventist Church. Yes. Okay. I will do that. Once it destroys your organs and liver, there's no cure. That is really horrible. Yeah, no, I appreciate the story, Bill, because Wild was talking about that too. So yes, you need a kidney and liver transplant fast. Yeah, so sorry, Bill. That's just crazy. That had to be, what a crazy story. My mom knew a kid who died when she was a kid. So I was told they're all toxic. Yeah. No, Bill, always talk about that warning. It's real and they look so edible. I mean, a lot of mushrooms look edible. I just wouldn't, unless I grew them myself. I would not go picking wild mushrooms. That is just that is a slope I'm not willing to to slide down. So, yeah, so that's our big. I was gonna do two topics tonight, but this one was a pretty big one. And I think, really talking about the food industry, again, bringing it back full circle to my mom and how she raised me, is that this battle has been going on for so long, and it's worsening. It's not getting any better. It's just getting worse. So we really, Kenny, I love mushrooms. You could put Miracle Whip on them. We really need to make sure that we are taking our health into our own hands. There's so much in our world today that is a pill for an ill, and we cannot live like that anymore. We are destroying ourselves as a species. We're living more years in sickness than we are in health. Sounds like a marriage. But yeah, we don't want to live, you don't want to live the last 20, 30 years of your life in sickness. We want to be healthy and vibrant and have our health optimized and be able to enjoy every last moment that we're on this planet. So Wild says, I've learned about plants my whole life. I've been learning about mushrooms for 15 years now. Nice. Your Miracle Whip. I love my Miracle Whip, but that would be nasty. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't even go for that. Yes, we just have to eat real food. It's just crazy. And I'm pretty I can be kind of extra in the sense that, I can my own food, I can my own salsa. I just dehydrated a bunch of mushrooms, not mushrooms. Geez, we got mushrooms on the brain. Tomatoes, peppers. I got a whole, oh my gosh, I have a whole bushel of these, you guys. I picked them a couple days ago, picked more today. I've got a bunch of green tomatoes. I'm going to try my hand at pickling them for the winter. And I know a lot of people, that's just a lot of people just can't even understand where to begin in their own health journey. But you have to start somewhere. Is it movement? Is it sleep? Is it food? Do you have a food addiction that you have to get your arms around? And what does that look like? And how can I help you, figure that out? I love mushrooms on pizza. And yes, agreeing, we need to eat real food. So part of the problem becomes, a big issue is the addiction of the food industry. So being aware, recognizing that, making sure that you're not buying this stuff. You have to vote with your wallet. You have to avoid these types of toxic chemicals. When I started off, oh gosh, I've always gardened. So since I've owned my house, when I was growing up, my mom always had a garden. But since I've had my own home, which is now 20, how long have I had this house? 23 years. I had a garden since day one. So I've been gardening every year. That was something that my mom instilled in me is, grow your own food. And there's something, it's not even from, it's more than just having your own food to pick. That's a great part of it. That's a big part of it. But there's something, and Bill, you can attest to this. Bill's a farmer. Bill grows stuff that when you are able to take something and plant it and then see literally the fruits of your labor, there is something about that. I don't have a word for it, but there's a feeling that you get when you're like, my little plants were this big, and Bill's got a whole stand of black walnut that his father, I always forget if it's your dad or your great grandfather or your grandfather who who planted all the trees. I think you planted them when you were little, right? So it was you and your dad. But he's got this whole stand of black walnut that were like, you know, and it wasn't like his dad knew, I'm going to say it's your dad, when they planted them, that it wasn't going to be for another generation before they would recognize the you know, that they had this incredible crop of black walnut. So we don't, you know, there's a feeling that you get, there's an accomplishment, and then yeah, you get to eat your own food, and then what do you do with it? And I only started preserving my food, you know, dehydrating. I froze a lot of stuff. I would just throw tomatoes in a bag and I would just freeze them, or I'd cook my tomatoes down and throw them in a Ziploc and I'd freeze them that way. And then I started canning about 15 years ago. And then I immediately bought a dehydrator. I love dehydrating. I would like to get a freeze dryer. I just don't have the room for it. And they're expensive, and I have all kinds of other ways that I can preserve food. So, but like I said, it's an evolution. So I don't expect everybody to be like me, but I do expect you to start somewhere. Just stop buying the garbage with the chemicals in it. Katie Lilly says, it took me 60 years to figure out that we have to eat real food. It's crazy. And I just talked to somebody the other day and they were like, yeah, my mom raised us on like chicken pot pies and, you know, Salisbury steak. And, you know, I was fortunate that my mom cooked and she taught us how to cook, and she made sure that we always had fresh ingredients. And, you know, I've said this before that, you know, we were poor. And so we ate a lot of organ meats. We ate a lot of chicken livers and chicken hearts and lamb tongue and sweetbreads. And we ate a lot of organ meats because they were cheap. We thought it was a delicacy as kids. You know, I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my mom was trying to give us protein, but she couldn't afford a steak or a roast. You know, I'd always ask her, I'm like, can't we have a roast? Like she never made roasts or anything. Like she'd make a leg of lamb every once in a while. But yeah, we had organ meats a couple times a week because it was cheap. And you know, so it's just interesting. You go, yeah, and it's one of the healthiest things that you can have is organ meat. So Kenny says, your half can have mushrooms. My half gets ham and pineapple. Kenny, I might have to kick you off the stream. Pineapple has no business being on a pizza. I'm very firm about that. I don't know if we can be friends now going forward. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. You're going to have to you got to give me some time on that. That is like, yes, herbs went in first and then edible flowers. Oh, that's great. I built more and more every year. Yeah, it's a process, right? Bill says, he who plants a tree plants hope. I love that. Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wild says, I remember picking berries forever so we can have pies in the winter. Oh my gosh. And you'll never, I always say this too, like preserving your own food is such a great practice because you'll never in the middle of winter experience or eat the same quality of what you picked and preserved that day or within a week or whatever it was. Like there'll never be a tomato like this in the store. This grew from the soil. You can taste the minerals in it. You guys remember that? When tomatoes tasted like that, you tasted the minerals. You tasted what came from the soil. Tomatoes today are just flavorless. So that's why when I make salsa, you know, I get my tomatoes and they go right into the jar within a couple of days, if not preferably the same day. Today, this year I had to do my salsa 2 days later, but either way. But, you know, that's what we want. All the tomatoes in the store today, they're all hydroponic. They do not come from the soil. So, so these babies, this is where the magic is right here. And yes, you can't quite see it. It is orange. It's yeah, that's the color of it. When these are, part of the reason I get these, they do taste amazing, but they make the best green tomatoes. So I'll pick them early. I'll slice them nice and thick and put them on the grill, or make fried green tomatoes out of them. So yeah, these make amazing green tomatoes. And there's a few out there that'll get pickled too. So I think I'm going to can those. Katie says you should acknowledge that it's not your mouth. He's asking you to eat the pizza. Pineapple and ham just kind of really turns my stomach, Kenny. Tomatoes, I have several freezer bags full, and don't look at the table. Really, like for real, if I turned my camera and you saw all the tomatoes that are sitting here, like it is crazy. So I feel that, yes. I have one like that on my table. Yeah, no, that's a whole tray to my right, and then behind it is a huge 9x16 glass tray just mounded full. And then I've got a huge bowl in the fridge with the green tomatoes, and another huge bowl with little red grape tomatoes. So I think I'm going to probably put those grape tomatoes in the, I've gotten a lot of grape tomatoes that I put in the dehydrator. They are, oh my gosh, they're like little tomato candies. They're so good when they're dehydrated, little tomato raisins. They're so good. I just, if you get a craving, like if I get a salt craving, but I don't want to I don't eat, I love potato chips, but I don't want to eat them all the time. I try to really limit that. That can be my weakness. I will just eat a few of these little dehydrated tomatoes, and the flavor is really, really incredible. Yeah, I know. I know. Kindred spirits, Wild, for sure. Absolutely. So, yeah. So you guys sign that petition. And sorry, I just froze there for a second. Make sure you sign that petition for Kellogg's. Make sure you do not buy Kellogg's. Just stop buying those cereals. If you have any of that stuff, go throw it away. I have one tomato plant, and I picked them green to beat the frost. I don't know which are which. Yeah, exactly. I know. Well, you know what I did? I took a paper towel. So one of my, I have another, I think I ate them tonight for dinner. I just had a couple left, and they're like red and orange. They look like the orange one, but then they have some red on them. They're amazing. And so I took some of the orange and some of the red and orange ones, and I smeared the seeds onto a paper towel. Because I don't know how to save seeds, and I'm trying to save those seeds. So I have a bunch of seeds that are dried onto a paper towel, because I was told once that you could do that, and then you just take the paper towel and you stick it in the dirt, and then it'll grow. You'll grow tomatoes. But same thing. I don't know, because I mixed them. And there might be some little grape tomatoes in there too. So it'll be a fun, it'll be a fun experiment next year. So I know, poor Kenny. I always pick on Kenny. Oh, Kenny, your power went out for real? You missed it? How did you miss it? Hold on one second. And good. Don't buy any of that cereal. I just don't eat cereal. I just don't see any. I have this patient that I'm working with. He's like 83, and his wife died a few years ago. So he's on his own, and he's been a patient of mine for many, many years. And he came in, and I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And he said, "Oh, I want to review my nutrition and make sure I'm on the right supplements." And I said, "Great." And he's telling me about his diet. And he's like, "Well, some mornings I have a couple of eggs and sausage and a piece of toast." And I'm like, "Okay, that's okay." And he goes, "But most mornings I just have cereal." And I'm like, I looked at him and I go, "What are you, 6?" And he started laughing, and then he said, and he eats Crispix, which I used to love Crispix with banana. I loved all cereals with banana and blueberries. And he's like, "I don't know if you know what that is." And I go, "Yeah, I do. I was like, I loved that cereal." Crispix was like all the Chex mixes combined into one cereal, which I thought was really cool. But anyway, so he came in the other day to get some supplements, and he goes, "Is there any cereal that you'd recommend then instead of the Crispix?" And I'm like, "No." And he started laughing. He's like, "I don't get to have cereal anymore." I go, No. And so anyway, that was a good cereal story. Okay, so Kenny, I was dissing on you because of your pineapple and ham. nasty, bro. Totally nasty. I almost ended our friendship over it. Like, that's what you missed. So, 11.99 a box here. I'm glad we don't eat it anymore. Grains, 11.99 a box. Like, why would you? Yeah, and there's nothing nutritional in it, right? Okay, I still eat corn and rice, but I can kind of tolerate them. I'm not opposed to rice. You mean cereal, corn cereal, and rice cereal, or just corn and rice? Yeah, the entire neighborhood. It looks like. Oh, that's interesting. I'm so glad I didn't. I mean, I know you're only a couple of towns over. So, what did I do while I wasn't here? Yeah, this is going to be it's a bigger battle than the mayonnaise Miracle Whip battle, Kenny. I promise you. Yeah. People want porny. They do. I know. It's so crazy. Yeah, I wanted like a little dessert last night. I just wanted something like it was a couple hours after I ate. And so I had my homemade yogurt and I put the frozen blueberries that I picked from a farm last summer. I sprinkled it with cinnamon and I put a little drizzle of maple syrup over it. And it was so good. And I might have another little bowl of that tonight. Although I did also make a fresh loaf of sourdough bread because, again, I told you I'm extra because the bread in the store, we don't eat much bread. But when we do, I love a good sourdough, but I'm not willing to buy just like crappy store-bought bread. It's terrible, which is also why I'm making crackers too. I told you guys I'm extra. I know. It could, Kenny, it could end our friendship is what I'm saying. It could really end our friendship. Nuts, yogurt, fruit, all you can pour. Yes, for sure. And it's filling. And sometimes too, like when I go to yoga in the morning, I do a hot yoga. It's like 100 degrees. It's really intense. And you can't really eat. I can't really even make a nutritional shake because it's so intense and like nothing's digested very well. And then you're moving and you're twisting. So it gets a little like, comes up on you a little bit. But I'll eat just a couple tablespoons of yogurt in the morning. Again, my homemade yogurt before I go. And it satisfies me just enough. Like, and I feel pretty good because also I've tried eating before doing a nutritional shake. And it's like, if I don't do something, I can get a little nauseous if the heat is too high. So, but yeah, so there's just, ways around your nutrition. You can have whatever you want in your half. No, because it stinks like pineapple and ham. I love ham, but pineapple also has no business being cooked this is a twofold argument here. Yeah. It has no business being cooked and it has no business being on pizza. So yeah. And you will not bring it into my house, my friend. You can sit in the driveway and eat your pineapple and ham pizza. I thought the keto-friendly cereal in Sprouts was good. Any thoughts? I don't know. I don't know that the keto-friendly cereals in Sprouts. Is Sprouts the grocery store? I don't know what keto-friendly cereals are. Let me see. I just, I'm kind of like, let's see, 20 best keto cereals you'll actually eat. This is kind of where I go back to so they're low carb, which is a bit of and it's grain free. I just like, I wonder what's in them. I would have to, okay, so here, sweetened with monk fruit. I cannot stand monk fruit. Yeah. So these are sweetened with stevia, monk fruit. What's this one? Coconut sugar. I've seen. Yeah. So they'll have not artificial sweeteners. I mean, some of them might. I don't know. But I I'm so put off by, that's why I said, if I'm going to, and I actually found a granola that has no sugar in it, which is like shocking. And so sometimes I'll put a couple tablespoons of that on my yogurt. And again, then I just drizzle it with the maple syrup myself. So this whole like, keto foods, gluten-free foods. I have a patient that I'm working with, and I said, listen, we've got to take you off gluten and off dairy. We didn't have an opportunity to have our follow-up appointment yet on food and menu planning. And I saw her just a couple of days after our initial conversation. And she goes, I hate you now. Everybody always does that. It's okay. And she said, I can't have gluten and I can't have dairy. So she went out and she bought all the gluten-free stuff and all the dairy-free stuff. I go, what does that mean? She bought dairy-free cheese. She bought dairy, she just replaced it with garbage. And so that's kind of how I feel about the keto stuff too. I'm like, you really got to read the ingredients. So yeah. And I just have an aversion to anything that's not real sugar. So even monk fruit, which is natural, stevia, which is natural. A lot of people can tolerate it. I don't like the mouthfeel. I don't like that there's sort of that like weird alcohol-y kind of a, sensation you get in your mouth. I can't do any of that stuff. If you can tolerate it, it's fine. I would avoid anything with the sugar alcohols. So maltitol, erythritol, xylitol. Those are actually really bad for your microbiome. So the banned ingredients, hi Jay, thank you for being here. The banned ingredients, you can go back to the top of of this, go back and rewatch, but the big ones are artificial colors and BHT, which is a preservative that Kellogg's is still using in their cereal that has been banned in other countries. So it's still a fight to get them to remove that. Wild says, I used to do that. Food is not good before that. More intensive than regular yoga too. Is not just the stretch. I know. Yeah. It's like when I tell people that and I'm like, no, oh no, this will kick your ass for sure. But how processed, because not all keto friendly are the same. It's exactly. Yeah. It's like, what exactly is it? And again, it's like, and I have, keto as a whole, it's a whole nother conversation. But it's just like anything else. You just cannot replace a healthy diet with whatever that diet's food is, if that makes sense. So you can't just like go gluten-free and then go buy a bunch of gluten-free food. You can't go dairy-free and buy a bunch of dairy-free food. You can't be keto and go buy a bunch of keto food. Like you can't be vegan and go buy a bunch of vegan food. Like that's not how this works. So I would just, Katie, say, just make sure you're reading that label. So, Kenny says anti-pineapple. No, I'm pro pineapple. I'm just not pineapple on a pizza. I'm anti-pineapple on a pizza and I'm anti-pineapple being cooked. It stinks. I don't know what happens to it, but I have a bag of 100% dried organic pineapple in my cabinet because that's how much I love pineapple. Does cooking pineapple change the bromine in it? That's a great question. I don't know. I would have to look into it, but that is a really good question because, like I said, I do have the dehydrated pineapple. So I know that like when you dehydrate things, if you dehydrate at 115 degrees or less, it still can be considered live food. You haven't destroyed any of the enzymes in it. So I don't know. That might be if it's a dehydration issue, what temperature was it dehydrated? If it's freeze dried, probably still has its nutrients. And then if it's cooked, maybe not. I do not know, but that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Get to know the ingredients and look them up for sure, Wild. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, don't buy things that have a whole list on them that if you're like, oh, I have to look up these 20 things that's on this one product, put it back, Wild says I have to be gluten-free, but I still can't eat most gluten-free stuff. And it's made with cheap ingredients. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So YouTube has a lot of cooking videos on anything you want, for sure. There's also a really great website called Yumly. I'm going to drop this in here. And then I just realized like we've been over an hour and a half today. Great questions, you guys. Great engagement. Thank you so much. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. And if you have not subscribed, please do that. So let me get this. So this is actually one of my favorite websites, and it's called Yumly. And you could put, I'll create a menu plan for people, a 7-day menu plan. And let's say one of the days it says beef with broccoli. I'll tell them, okay, now go into Yumly and type in beef with broccoli, and they'll get hundreds of different recipes that they could make. So it definitely offers a lot of variety there. So, all right, Kenny says pineapple on pizza is so, I don't know if I can't even read it because I can't even read it. It turns my stomach. Black olives and spaghetti sauce. Okay. I will take my fresh tomatoes, chop up a ton of garlic, olive oil, some chopped Kalamata olives, and then at the very end, put in some fresh chopped basil and put that over like spaghetti squash or like a good pasta or something like that. So sort of. Does that answer your question? If I make it myself, yes. Yes, very fun chat, Wild. Thank you so much for being here. Bill says, if it doesn't sound like food on the label, it probably isn't. Yes, that's what my mother used to always say. I know. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it is. I'm like, can't do that. I can't do the pineapple. Cannot do the pineapple. Anywho. All right, you guys. Wow. Amazing. An hour and 36 minutes. That flew by. I had no idea. You guys are so fun. I appreciate all of your questions, comments, chat. And we've fleshed out another thing that Kenny and I get to fight over. So our first one is mayonnaise and Miracle Whip, and now we have to argue over pineapple pizza. But okay, it is what it is. So yes, it's a good sauce. You would love it. Katie Lilly says raw sugar is chemically processed for shelf stability, and the elimination diet that you spoke of is the best. Yeah, I have a bag of sugar. I will admit that. For every once in a while, if I need actual sugar for something, which is like one little bag of sugar will last me well over a year. If I'm going to sweeten something, I'm using honey, I'm using maple syrup. And then most of the time, our whole life is elimination diet sounds so, it sounds strict, but it's actually a lifestyle. So once you start to understand that elimination diet is really mostly, if you can just do gluten-free and dairy-free, which I know I make my own yogurt, we eat cheese, I eat high quality cheeses. So I pick and choose which dairies that I want to have. This isn't just about, it's like we can't, and then of course, like gluten-free. Okay, if I'm going to have gluten, and I don't have a gluten intolerance. I do have a dairy intolerance, so I'm mindful of that. But that's the thing. If I'm going to have gluten, if I'm going to have bread, I made my own. I've got my own sourdough hanging out right over there that I did not get a chance to slice into before I came here. So, yes, it really helps you maintain a clean eating plan, a clean lifestyle. The puppy gave me back my sock. Kenny says, I'll let you slide on the pineapple pizza, but I'm still going to like it. Cannot make me not. Honey, maple syrup, or brown sugar if I'm feeding others that want sugar. I know I'm a maple syrup hoarder, right? I'm like, oh yeah, here's some sugar. All right, you guys, it is 7:39. And once again, I'm going to jump off. I'm going to try to decompress before tomorrow. And there's my boy scratching away, clanging at his collar. But anyway, don't forget to like and share, subscribe. Thanks again for all your questions. And we will see you tomorrow morning for Reset Monday. And then Thursday for Chiropractic is Sexy, and then right back here next week. So, all right, let me know if there's anything that you that I haven't talked about that you'd like me to talk about. Feel free to drop me an email or drop it in the comments, and I'll grab that. And I'm happy to bring you whatever topics will serve you best. Okay, you guys, have an amazing rest of your night. Talk to you soon. Bye.